Welcome to Diversity Conversations, where we engage in thought-provoking dialogue to identify leadership solutions to today's most challenging conflicts. Stream live each week, Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hosted by Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist and CEOs Eric Ellis and Tommie Lewis. Join us and add your voice to this engaging diversity conversation.
Good morning, Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Eric Ellis, and I'm the President and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation, and I'm joined this morning by my good friend and my brother,
Tommie Lewis, President and CEO of Make It Plain Consulting. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, T. What's up, baby? What's up?
Nothing much. I want to say thank you, Eric, for your support, your love, your coaching, your guidance with regards to my golf game.
Woo!
Yesterday,
Absolutely.
I made a revelation, actually put some things together. Eric and I went out to golf. As you all know, we golf often, and was able to put some things together that, and it wasn't only the score. I scored well.
Mm-hmm.
It was simply, coming off the tee, doing that well, second shot, doing that well, and hitting some putts, all in my own lane. So
Right.
I did not get outside of myself
Right.
where I typically do. So thank you for your continued support.
Phenomenal day. I was proud. I just felt great. Golf is a difficult game. Tommie shot in the 30s yesterday. That's almost scratch. And it's a difficult thing to do. He put a birdie in on hole number one, and lightning and everything was coming.
Yeah.
And Tommie was like, I think heaven is celebrating. Let's keep going. I said, well, Tommie, I'm holding this lightning rod right here. We can't stop now.
Right.
That's what I was saying. Now, we had a great time. The sun came out. But I'll tell you what, we're both competitors, lifelong learners. Golf is a difficult game. Everybody loves golf. Golf don't love nobody. And so I think our guest is coming in. We've got new technology, so let's see what we have here. Good morning. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Natalie. Tommie Lewis here. How are you? Doing fantastic. For those, we just started the show, Diversity Conversations. We have an audience, which we call our community, that is throughout the U.S. As well as the globe, and it's exciting to hear from you. You're not in the U.S., you're not in North America. If you would, before we have your formal introduction, where are you calling in from? Yes, indeed, the south of France. Natalie, thank you. Thank you for, and you're originally from, help us out? Yes. So we would call people like you as globetrotters, not basketball, but globetrotters. Natalie, it's great to be with you. And if you don't mind, I'm starting the conversation. My colleague, my brother, Eric Ellis is here as well. I had the very blessed opportunity to speak with you some weeks ago, and I think we connected on a personal level, and then obviously professional. So for our audience, would like to turn it over to you for introduction. We have an audience, a community that will at times share their comments, share their questions. Because of technology, and technology is great until it stops working.
That's right.
Right. So we would love to see you, and if it permits itself at a later time, be able to fix all of our technology to have you join us both from voice as well as with video. But we would like to turn it over to you to have you introduce yourself, tell us about yourself, and then we'll continue the conversation.
cannot hear.
And in Canada. And we specialize in creative and design, digital marketing, activation, performance marketing as well. And there is about 700 employees in the US and also in Canada. So we have a bit of international base. And then I work from London and south of France, and also we have a few colleagues who work around Europe, in Germany, and also Switzerland and other places. I'm a DE&I would say, a DE&I, HR, IT type of chief of staff person who goes through with talking to our employees about things that they care about, HR stuff, strategy, executive leadership team, helping them to understand what's happening in the different agencies and the different states, finding ways to make sure that we are able to bring all the different agencies we have under our umbrella together to form a one family, and to be able to look after our stakeholders quite well. So that's what we do.
And how long have you been doing this?
So I've been a chief of staff for Meet the People for the last 4 years. But previously I've been doing that role in different agencies as well for basically maybe about since 2013. I'm a corporate governance and a company law professional, and I've been doing that since 2006. So basically I transitioned from being a company secretary, corporate governance person into working through different global places in Europe and in the UK and in the US, and then gradually it sort of turned me into a chief of staff role because of the different topics that I would normally look at for different companies.
In our previous conversation, as we were preparing to have you as our guest, I had commented and really applauded you in your ability to code switch, to be culturally competent as a global representative. And so my question is, as you look at your work in your part of the world, what are some of the top 2, top 3 challenges that you are facing with not only your business, Meet the People, but also really creating some connectivity with folks?
So I think that the challenge that most companies will have or do have, is inclusion and bringing people together, especially when you are not in one office. That's one of the big challenges for big companies when they don't have one office and they have different people working for them. It's bringing people together and making sure that they have one goal, which will allow them to perform in a certain way for themselves as well as for the company. Because I have this theory that if your employees are happy, then you are going to get the right performance from them. And sometimes we don't think about that as company leaders, and therefore that then sort of affects what we end up with as our result for the end of the year. So that's one of the big challenges, trying to bring everyone together. I would say that's number one.
And I know that Eric may have some questions. He will have some questions, but I like what you just said about employees being happy, maybe inclusiveness, that sense of belonging. We also know, Natalie, that the sense of happiness, the sense of belonging could be very subjective, and it may be situational. In other words, I'm a happy employee until I have a negative performance evaluation, right? So before that evaluation, I love myself, I love you, I love the company. But now I get a ding on my evaluation and I hate everybody, right? How do you help folks understand that, the happiness of employees, the engagement and inclusiveness of employees, the sense of belonging is a work in progress. It's a journey rather than a sprint to an immediate endpoint?
your employees as well, right? So something.
Hello?
Hello?
So we may have lost Natalie. Unfortunately, we experienced a few technical difficulties. Hey, community, if we would, let's do a little pulse check. If you are hearing my voice in this broadcast, if you can go to the chat room, just let us know. If you are hearing us, Eric and I, we hope to bring Natalie back as well. And so again, Natalie, the Global Chief of Staff of Meet the People, phenomenal leader, really connecting organizations across the globe to do a number of things. One is to create their viability and brand across industries. Two, to identify where there's a best source.
Natalie, I think you're back.
I am back.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I could tell that you couldn't hear me, so I put my headphones in so that you could hear me properly. And I'm hoping you can hear me properly
Yes,
now.
we can.
Okay. So what was your second question? I could see you were talking to me, but I couldn't hear you.
No, I was just sharing with the community just a snapshot of what you and Meet the People do as we were bringing you back, but just wanted to have you continue conversation around, what are some of those things that you're doing to, engage employees and create that happiness, if you will.
So at Meet the People, for example, one of the things I'm very proud we have is a very amazing HRI. So it's a HR system. Sorry, I need to remember. Not everyone has the terminology. So we have a very, very good HR tool that allows people to, obviously, when you start as a new employee, we put you on there from HR, and it allows you to have a profile. And through that, you get to see everyone who is part of the 12 different agencies that we have. So we end up with the 700 people being in the same database, and you can see who they are, the job they do, the job title, the agency they're with. And through that, there is also a very amazing sort of homepage which allows people to share this. So it that, and then I had to say to everyone, but I am not going to do that, only because I don't want everyone to be very jealous of my fun conversation. No, but it was really, I just could not believe how we had such good participation of employees sending us different photos, either with their pets, either with, whatever they were doing. Some people have very technical type of desks, maybe 3 computers and things like that. And it was very interesting to see what people were doing at home or even in the office and the type of things that they do. And so that helps all of us understand a way of communicating with each other and sort of going, okay, this is where that person is based. This is what they do during the day. This is how they spend their time. And it just gives you a little bit of, conversation starter, even if you don't know them, and you start if you start a meeting, you are able to have that conversation to go, oh, I noticed you have a puppy. What is the puppy's name? And then it goes from there.
I think that's a fantastic idea and approach, because as we talked about before, and Eric and I, we know this very much, that we are humans first. And we work in our respective work environments, we have our respective lives, but what you just mentioned really triggered me, it really brought some light that, I think that when I go to a company's website and I see the employees, those who I can see, it's typically a still photo. It's manufactured. That person's kind of unnaturally looking to the left or right, or having the eyeglasses in their hands a certain way. And so it's not as personable as the person. And so if I can see the backdrop of their work environment, their life environment, like you said, if they have a pet or family, that really brings some color and dynamics to the person, which everyone has their own story. That's a great idea and suggestion.
Right. One of the things, Natalie, how are you? This is Eric Ellis.
Hello, Eric. How are you today?
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for joining us on Diversity Conversations. I have a couple of questions. The first, though, is in line with what you're saying. From a lot of research that we've done with our clients, sometimes there are issues with people from different socioeconomic backgrounds not necessarily wanting their environment to be on video. They don't want to be judged. And then a lot of times employees often lack the psychological safety to speak up about the kinds of things that they're being challenged by. How are you all navigating those? Or are you seeing that, hearing those at all?
Yes, you do get that. And again, one of the things I always say to everyone is as part of Meet the People, I always say to them, you don't have to, if that's not what you would like to do, that's fine. We shouldn't judge everyone by what they don't feel comfortable. Sometimes people don't feel comfortable. Sometimes people have different beliefs. And we just need to try and understand that. And, yes, sometimes you can have that conversation with them. Outside of Meet the People, I remember having been in another company where they would put everyone's photo as part of the website. And there were a few people who said they didn't want to do it because they just had a few personal issues, be it to do with maybe an ex-boyfriend or an ex-partner, or it could also be something to do with a home life situation, because they didn't want to do that. Now, sometimes people will explain that to you and say, this is why I don't want to be involved. And sometimes people don't want to explain that to you. But however the situation is, I think as a company, we should then go, that's fine. If that's not what you would like, if that's not, if you say it's more, it's not part of the performance of the company or the performance of your job. It enhances you when you are part of a social conversation. But if you don't feel like it, then that's fine as well.
That's good. Now, I just want to go back a little bit because our audience is always interested in learning more about our guests as people, as individuals. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about the people and life experiences that have made you who you are today and brought you into this area of interest around DEI.
So most people don't know this, and I sometimes put this on my LinkedIn and Instagram. My dad died when I was 5 years old. And I would have to say, I think that shaped me a little bit in what maybe some of my empathy that I have for people, as well as where I am today. And through that, I moved into the UK, and through that, I sort of had, I've had the opportunity to work in different parts of the world, especially in Europe as well. And I would say between my dad, my mom, and the various people I meet on the way through my education and then starting work, and people who I then become friends with or good work colleagues with, have allowed me to grow. And so I always think, with that in mind, that's also something we should do with our colleagues or people that we meet along the way, help them grow, bring things to the table. And I remember one of the big things I always say is when I got the role with Tim Ringle and Thomas Ambruster, who are the CEO and COO of Meet the People, I met them in 2013. And at my last interview, I was talking to them in London, next to Buckingham Palace, 21st floor, everything was amazing. The fire alarm went. And we were like, okay,
Right.
what do we do now? And so they were like, okay, let's continue the interview. I'm thinking, how are we continuing this interview? Obviously, we're going to have to walk downstairs from the 21st floor as we have the interview. And the funniest thing is, I was obviously interview ready with my, pencil dress on, very 6-inch heels on, with my bag, everything else. And we were walking 21 steps, 21 floors down.
Oh my goodness.
And I was being interviewed at the same time. And in fairness, to them, after we got to the ground floor to the coffee shop, they gave me the role. So, they were like, well, if you can do that, then, that means to you. You definitely can do a lot with the company. So you're welcome to join us.
Yes.
And, I bring this up because that was 2013. And through that, they've given me different opportunities. And now we're working on Meet the People together after that long. So it's just, it's one of those lasting moments now that it's over. But it also takes the conversation of me working with them in Europe, then working with them again in the UK, and then now being part of US and Canada. And they've made a big part of my life.
That's awesome. Do you do any work in Ghana?
Actually, I haven't done any work in Ghana for a while. But funny enough, I was in Ghana in November because it was my mom's 80th, and so I took my mom to Ghana, and I met up with a few people, and they also started talking to me, and they said to me, "Why don't you come to Ghana and do some projects with us?" And I said yes to them. And recently, 2 weeks ago, one of them sent me a message saying, "We would really like to have you in Ghana to do a few projects with us, as we discussed in November. So, let's start having a conversation and going from there." I would love to do that because I think, again, proud Ghanaian, I think sometimes Africa is overlooked a little bit.
Yes.
And, there is so many things, resources, natural and, human beings that actually do well in Africa, but they are not looked at very properly. And I think it would be great to bring that to the forefront of individuals, as well as promote the different companies and the different lifestyle of places like Ghana, or, most people always say to me, South Africa, and I love South Africa as well, but there is not a lot of other countries in Africa that people mention. And so it would be great for us to start doing things together there.
Let me ask one last question, because I think what really resonates with people is not necessarily the technical aspects of the work that we do, but the stories that sort of inform us or create our appetite or interest to do this work. So as you think about the life stories that you've seen with people, either in Ghana or in the UK, what are you seeing as some of the inequities that people are facing that drive your interest in this work?
I think for me, if I look at the UK, for instance, sometimes we don't value the employees that we have because we are always in such a rush to get somewhere that we don't really look at what they bring to the table. And sometimes it takes some people. I was talking to one of our employees recently who started a couple of months ago, and I had to say to her, look, I generally feel that when people start new roles, it takes them at least 3 months to get their way around a big company. Example, like Meet the People, we 12 different agencies, different names, different, skill set, everything. One company is doing creative, the other company is doing performance marketing. There is so many different parts of it. So when someone is starting and you don't give them that opportunity to learn and grow, and you rush them and then you make that judgment, I feel that's one thing that sometimes the world, everything needs to be today.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just reading in an article maybe a couple of weeks ago, and the article spoke about the difference between employee onboarding versus the orientation. So the orientation may be a day, it may be a few days, but onboarding is a continuous process, as you mentioned, 3 months, maybe even 6 months. What are you seeing with, as you're working with people, why people are either leaving organizations and or why are organizations having challenges really getting that great talent?
I'm smiling. I really wish I could, have the video on me because it's one of the topics I love to talk about. People are leaving companies because they don't feel a part of the company. They don't feel like companies are supposed to be like family. You spend so much of your time at work with these people, and if you don't feel comfortable with them, if they don't treat you with respect and also with and have empathy sometimes, depending on what is happening in your day-to-day life, you would not want to be there in the end, and you would leave. So I feel sometimes people stay in companies because they feel at home there. They feel like part of the company. They feel like part of the family. So they will stay. And if you don't treat them well, they will leave. And one of the big conversations we've had at Leader People is remote working. Because most companies in the last, COVID happened, everyone was working from home. Then all of a sudden, everyone has to come back into the office, which is fine. But you transition them into the office in a certain way that allows them to realize that, they don't have the ability to put the washing on as they have 5 minutes in between, meetings and things like that anymore. Because when they come to the office, that's what happens. They also don't have they have to spend maybe an hour traveling to work, an hour back. And I know as businesses, we're there to make money. That's something that everyone knows. But we also have to be able to give and take. And that's, for me, where sometimes companies don't do.
Yeah, I would agree. We work with our clients, and there's a lot of change. Obviously, there's a lot of transition, not only inside and outside of the organization, but within the organization. Folks are promoted, they're advanced. Some folks are well placed. What we've learned is that when employees have transitioned out of the organizations are not doing a great job of taking care of what we call the survivors, those who are still there. Yeah. So we work with our colleagues and our coworkers for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They become part of our family. And so when they leave, there's somewhat of a mourning period, right? And then you get into, the mental health of employees to say, I've worked with Natalie for 20 years, I've worked with Eric for 30 years, and they're both gone. What's my identity now? I can do my job, but who can I connect with? Are you seeing that with organizations as well?
Yeah, sometimes one person leaves, and then when that one person leaves, you trigger a few other people to leave because of that conversation. And it's not always because of that person. They can also see the way maybe a company has treated that one person. Yeah. And there is a saying, when someone shows you who they are, believe it. Because if they've done it to one person, they will do it to you as well. And so then an employee is sitting there going, oh, maybe I leave before they do this to me. And that's one of the things that I see happening a lot, because most employees don't want to be in that situation anymore. So they'd rather jump than have a conversation with the company and then understand that they're not actually wanted as part of, the company.
Right. One of the things that we've seen, well, first of all, let me just ask you, you're clearly aware of our president's attack on DEI. And my question is, how is that reverberating in you all's country and with the clients that you're working with?
So I'm proud to say in Europe, one of the reasons why I love living in Europe per se is because of the diversity that you see and have and feel. I know this can be a very controversial conversation when I think UK, especially London, is one of the best cities to live in the world because again of the diversity, and everyone just minds their own business when it comes to it's not about color, it's not about male or female. They just see you for who you are and what you bring to the table, and that's what I know. I can see it, but it's true. I have a lot of, I will give you a good example. My friendship group. When you come to my friendship group, there is so many people from different parts of the world, and I see that a lot when I go to the pub in the UK. If you go to restaurants in the UK, you see that a lot. And I know that's very controversial because at the end of the day, the question is, how is diversity? And this is what diversity is. It's for you to live it rather than for someone to always come out and tell you about diversity, but will not do it. And I feel sometimes you have, again, controversial, a president who, rather than bring people together, came in straight away with that conversation. And it was a little bit disheartening to have someone who's in charge of a big part of the world do that.
Right. My wife is working as VP of DEI for AMS. They're a consulting firm in England. And so she's been working with them for 4 years. And so I get a chance to hear a lot of the challenges that, that they do deal with around. I don't think that race is something that is discussed as much. There's a lot around gender and around neurodiversity and those kinds of things. But I just think that when we start identifying issues, sometimes that's just a difficult conversation for organizations. How are you all going about trying to identify? And I never want to look at just the bad news. I love when we do research within organizations, we're looking for what's succeeding, what's the good news, what are they doing well, and then what are some of the gaps and challenges. How are you all going about trying to assess that?
I would say the conversations you have, and so if I put Meet the People at the forefront of this conversation, Meet the People being based in different parts of US and also Canada, I tend to want to have conversations with people, and it's the hard conversations. If someone doesn't want to talk about DEI in a certain way, I sometimes want to understand why. Why is that? Why do we not talk about it? And then help them to see that it's not a bad thing. Maybe they've never really had the opportunity to have that conversation with anyone. They've never, maybe depending on where the office is based, they've never had to. We have an office in Columbia, Missouri, and that's one part of US that I would say when I get to Columbia, Missouri, I love it because everyone is very, nice. Everyone is happy. So if you want to bridge a DE&I conversation there, it's something that maybe they don't have a lot of diversity because of the place that they're based or the environment that they're in. So they don't really think about it. They just think, oh, we're all okay. And then you come in and then you have to say, well, help me understand what okay means. When do you talk about these conversations? What do you think about this? And then all of a sudden, you're having a conversation that they feel, we've never had this conversation before. We've never had to talk about these things before. And then, you bring that out of them. So I sometimes think it's to do with, as you said, difficult conversations being had with people, and then you can really understand what they're lacking as a part of a company or as a part of a group, and how best you can put certain things in place to enhance to enhance them. I would say enhancement rather than anything negative. Bring it to a better place.
Natalie, over the last couple of weeks on Diversity Conversations, Eric and I have been talking about perspective, right? The power of perspectives. And as you were speaking, a thought came to my mind. And that thought was, here in the US, I would say that the vast majority of people, and I haven't done the survey or the poll, but the vast majority of people really don't think about other countries other than what we may hear and see on the news, right? And as someone who's traveled to other countries as well, I have talked to people in other countries that have not thought about the United States at all, right?
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion from different perspectives, it had me think about a conversation I had 2 days ago with one of my sons. My wife and I are going to take a trip to a cruise from Rome to Barcelona. And he asked, how did they receive you? Because he knows that we've been to Italy before. How did they receive you in Italy? Did you have any problems? And both my wife and I said, no, we didn't have any problems, right?
Yeah.
And the point that I made was the point you just made. It's so much diversity, like being in Toronto, Canada, right?
I love Toronto.
And London.
Oh,
So much diversity that the perspective is so broad that one may not narrow to that narrow thought of whatever it is. And so how can you talk about how we can really think globally but act locally, not just country, not just state or community, but always think globally and then narrow down to the personal, very local, personal value that we can do this work?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think so again, like you said, not everyone sort of thinks outside of where they are, maybe, until they have to. And like yourself, I've been in so many different countries. And so when I sit, example, in south of France, and I want to sort of think about south of France and then think outside in a global way, I'm always thinking, well, this is a small place, but how are we bringing things together? And it's again, I come back to conversations you have with people, right? Because that nice Italian grandmother who might not have left that little village would then, in having a conversation with you and me, would then have a much wider thinking about global stuff and go, oh, okay, this is someone from US and this is how it's going to work. And we all promote ourselves, our country, our family, without really realizing that on a daily basis. So I would say that conversations and having those conversations with different people, but putting yourself out there as from wherever you're from makes it better every time.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I know Eric has another question too. I think that's wonderful because we've done work with folks, be it employees or your regular citizen, and we've heard, hey, if I want to learn about a particular person or a particular group of people, then I can watch a movie to tell me about them, or I can read a book. And I'm not a fan of that per se. If you want to learn about me, don't go watch a movie about African American men. That's general. You can do that. But really, if you would like to learn about me, proximity. Talk to me. Right? And so I think that the conversations that we need to have should be courageous. We should be able to be civil in our conversations with one another. We may not always agree. We may have different perspectives, but I think that my mind would get larger, my view would get larger and more broad if not only do I learn about Natalie, but I may get an insight on her family from Ghana, her relationship and experience in the UK, what she is doing and feeling right at this moment in south of France. That is a story in and of itself that may take time. And that, what I mean by that is, don't have just one 5-minute conversation, maybe begin to have a relationship.
Natalie, let me ask you this. So as I listen to you talk, it is clear to me that you are a wonderfully positive person. You are optimistic. You're excited. You're enthusiastic, and I find that unfortunately, not everybody in a country, in an organization, is that same way. What we're seeing right now is a lot of division all over the world, where people are becoming more nationalistic. We're seeing crazy wars that are happening in countries, and so part of what as I think about DEI, as I think about inclusion, part of it is trying to identify if bias is a human condition, and we believe that all people have biases. How are those biases manifesting themselves? And then how do we go about trying to rectify those? My experience is that leaders and powerful people aren't always open to really understanding how bias manifests itself, and then really putting in place real strategies and systems that help change the culture. So what are you seeing there? Are you finding a diverse workforce that's more positive? Or are you finding a diverse workforce that's concerned? And then how are organizations embracing those concerns?
So I think, different countries, or I come back with Meet the People as a very good example. And if I look at the different states that we're in, again, the worrying part is when you have someone leading a team and they actually bring, I don't want to say negativeness to the team. So if you're not necessarily, you don't have to always be a very happy person, but if you're not influencing your people in the right way, then you're never going to get them to also be in the right frame of mind. And then it triggers down. And I always say to individuals, how do we become biased? Because when you're born, you're never really a biased person. It's the people around you, the people you surround yourself with, it's how you end up with that, the different biasness or different opinions that you have, be it positive, be it negative or medium. And I think until you surround yourself with the right people at work, with leaders, with the right leadership team, with the right employees, with the right colleagues, with the right peers, there is always going to be that biasness with different companies and with different countries. And so I generally, every time I'm in different agencies that we have as part of our agency group, I like to sort of sit and have a conversation with people just to understand where they're coming from, and to be able to maybe be transparent about what to me the people, the group want from everyone. We want our employees to be part of the family. We would like certain things, certain expectations, so that you stay as part of the family for a longer time. If you don't have the right leadership team, you need to change the leadership team. If you don't have the right leader, you need to change that. And if you don't, you would end up with not just a workforce, but a country that's not very happy, or a workforce that's not very happy. And we just need to change people's sometimes negative thoughts and show them why that might not be the best way forward. And therefore, you can't really always change everyone, but you can also put your point across, communicate.
Let me ask a follow-up question. So do you all do anything in terms of looking at the demographic mix of your leadership across levels, by way of race, class, gender? How do you all even approach thinking about that?
So we do, and again, we have this HR platform that we use, and the reason why I like using it because I use it in a couple of different companies, and every company I go to, if they don't have a very good HR platform system, I try and recommend it to them, because what you do is you can see the statistics very, very easily when it comes to the usual men, female, the race, the type of leadership, everything. And the best bit is when you look at the organization chart, of example, Meet the People, and you then sort of see who are, how many men, how many women, what type of race, what type of this. It makes it, you can see what it is. Then the question is, do Meet the People, i.e. the Tim Ringle, the Tom and Brewster, the Luca, do they see if I come back to them and go, guys, I think we need to look at the org chart and see this is not right, would they take notice? You need to have that conversation with your leaders to be able to go, you don't have the right mix. At Meet the People, I'm glad to say we do have the right mix, but I've worked for companies where there is not right mix. There is only, example, female, or there is only male. And you're always going to ask the question, how are you going to have a good organization when you don't have a good mixture of people? Again, I always say this about DEI. People don't sometimes really understand this. Without the right inclusion of different people in a company, you are never going to make as much money as you think you will make. Because every single person brings different things to the table. And if you, as an example, if you're in a creative world and you don't have the right mix of individuals in part of your creative circle, you're going to sell one thing to a client. But how many clients do you want? Right? It's so important. How many clients do you want? If you want one client, then that's the only client you're going to get if you're going to get one type of people as your creative people. But if you bring in different creative people, you then have different visions, which allows you to have different clients who will come to you, and then you can impart your vision and creativity to all those different clients, which equals money.
I think that's a fantastic point. That's the work that you do and Meet the People and a number of organizations across the globe. My question is that, as you mentioned before, and we were talking about how we as human beings, we have different aspects of ourselves. We have our professional, trained, educated perspective, and then we have some other skills and talents that we use at home and in our community. How might you, or how might we really be able to surface the inherent strengths, talents, and skills of people, even beyond their technical expertise? For example, I'm an engineer by training, technically.
Yeah.
But what I do today is my strength, is my talent. And I've been able to pivot from the technical engineering side to the people side, literally. So any thoughts about how, as we're looking at org charts, as we're looking at the talent in the workforce, how can we help surface those inherent strengths?
I'm going to steal, I stole this particular word from someone a few years ago, and I keep saying that, superpower. What is your superpower? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't always have to be what you do per se. We all have different superpowers. That is not necessarily about the education that we have or the work that we do. And, one of the things, so in Meet the People, last year, I put together something called the Ambassadorship Program, and I bring all the different agencies, different people volunteer to be part of, in the different agencies to be part of an ambassadorship, which means you end up having conversations with your peers about different topics. And one of the topics of the ambassador group, or one of the ambassador group, is called superpowers. And it's because I want people to bring in their superpower, not your job title, not what your profession is, but what is your superpower? What do you bring to the table at work that maybe people don't see? Or they see, but, you know, yeah, they see it, but they don't really talk about it. So I always, when I see people, my first thing is, what is your superpower? And I don't want to hear, this is my job title. I want to hear, what is your superpower, right?
Right, exactly. That's great.
So what do you describe or define as your own superpower?
I knew you were going to
I
say
can
that.
guess about it, but
I knew you were going to say that. I think everyone thinks my superpower, and I know that, so I shouldn't be that modest. My superpower is just my energy.
yeah.
My energy and the things, the way I talk to people. So, I mean, as my friends and work people tell you, I can get anywhere in the world without meeting someone before. And by the end of 5 minutes conversation, we're friends. As the terminology say. And it's just, I have an energy superpower that I just make people comfortable, and I ask sincerely about things.
Now, you know what? I want to weigh in on that. Oh, this is kind of dangerous waters, but I'll weigh in anyway. I would suggest that there are some diversity problems that people encounter because they're encountering people that are biased. And there's not anything that they could do. They couldn't be nice enough or anything like that to help others to not be biased. But I'll tell you this, Natalie, I think a lot of what we bring upon ourselves is based upon our attitude. And so I think that it's like you get more flies with honey. And I think that doing everything that we can do to be cordial, to be hard workers, to deliver our best selves to an organization, I think that's important. But that's not going to eliminate all bias that we might experience. Where do you see the balance line between somebody experiencing discrimination that they can't be nice enough to avoid, but people having a bad attitude and then calling it discrimination when somebody treats them that way?
Yeah, this is a brilliant question, because I always say this. Sometimes some people say, oh, I've been discriminated against.
Right. You've been nasty to me and we the same color. I don't know what you call that. Right. Right. Right.
Because you're black, or because you're white. No. Your attitude is the problem. And if you maybe check your attitude a little bit into a different conversation, you might get better results from that, from meeting different people. And okay, yes, sometimes people are genuinely, racist or genuinely biased about something. And again, sometimes it's also the way when they do that, you go back, not in an angry mood, but you can call them out, but in a good way. You can call people out without also you portraying a negative attitude towards them, right? And that's, I always felt they kill them with kindness sometimes, and that really reverse the conversation, because sometimes when people are so negative towards you and you straighten them out, but with kindness, they lose it, because they're like thinking, now I can't go back and be more nasty because they're being so nice, but they're telling me off, but they're being nice. So then how can you go back and be even extra nasty to them or extra negative with them? And I think that might be also a balance system. And okay, fine, not every day will we be able to do that, because sometimes we're also in a bad mood. But generally, I think when people are biased, you need to call them out, but do it not in an angry way. And hopefully they would learn their lesson from that.
What are the things that are inspiring you on a regular basis, whether they're a part of your work or whether they're a part of your life? Just share with our community what it's like to be where you are, and what are the things that you're engaged in that are giving you the greatest pleasure and inspiration?
So my greatest pleasure, I think at the moment is where I'm at today. And I don't want I don't want everyone to be a little bit jealous, but I woke up, I opened the door, I see the blue condensed sea outside, and
right.
I thought, I'm blessed. And that was my first thing of the day. I was like, it can't get any worse.
Right.
Positive thinking, I'm blessed. And that for me was, this is going to be a good day.
Right.
So I'm so sorry to give you that.
Yeah, we hear how sad you are in your voice right now. Sound like it's all tears. Yeah.
Do you feel the tears?
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
We're feeling really well. But here's the thing. And what I want to say is that we are blessed by you being blessed. And I'll tell you that so many people don't recognize the power of joy and looking at the things that we have that we actually can be excited about. I think that because the news media makes their living on negativity, that people that consume too much of that believe that the sky is falling every single day. And really, when you're walking around with a cloud over you, it really hurts your whole demeanor, your whole spirit, and ultimately affects your health negatively. I love the fact that you are thrilled about the blessings that exist for you. And you're talking to two guys, Tommie Lewis and Eric Ellis, who are happy for you. We have seen people that if your life is blessed, then they're mad at you. But we want you to know how happy we are that you are blessed.
Absolutely are. And yeah, we want to continue to encourage our community. If you want to connect with Natalie, there's the link on the screen. You want to learn more about Meet the People, you have that access as well. We want to encourage our community, not only in the United States, but across the globe, to really tap into this gem of a superpower that's right with us. And thank you. And so I just have two more things real quick as our time is soon coming to the end. One, Natalie, when you and I spoke prior to our call today, I enjoyed our conversation very much. And I know that we had a very finite time, but you and I both know we could have kept talking, right? It kept catching up. We just connected. And so with that being said, if you are open and willing, the next time that myself or my wife and I are in London, we would love to catch up with you, if you don't mind.
That would be brilliant. That would be brilliant. It doesn't even have to be only in London. If you're in anywhere in Europe, let me know.
Okay, we can do that. We'll do that.
It'll be so much fun. Definitely.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
And I have to say, Eric, we don't want to leave you out.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I was feeling this a little bit sad. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, Natalie, as we come to a close, we want to give you an opportunity to sort of give your last message to our community. What are the things that excite you about the future for you and the work that you're doing?
So I think what excites me will be, I would say, getting to know more and more people and being able to, in a small way or a big way, depending on whatever it is, be able to connect with people, but also make an impact. And when I say make an impact, I want all of us to be able to pay forward. So we pay forward what we can give. We bring the positiveness out of people, and we make the world a better place. And I know this is such a when someone says that, you're like, oh, really? But I think if we could make the world a better place for all of us in a small way, we can get there at some point. So every time I see people, I just want to make sure that, you never know what's happening in someone's life today. Just be nice, get them to a positive place, encourage people, enhance their life, and make it work. But I do have one question for both of you, because you didn't tell me what your superpowers are.
Okay, Eric, you want to go first?
What are what?
Superpowers.
Oh, Well, yeah, that's good. My superpower is that I love people. I really, literally love people, and it's at the heart of the work that I do. So everything that I do around research is based upon how do you get people to, I think that my purpose on earth is to reconcile people one to another, and the way that I do that is by simply loving them. That's a part of my faith, but it's been one of my strengths, and people think sometimes it's what I know that makes the difference, but it's really who I am and how I care about people.
Yeah, that's excellent, Eric.
Thank you.
I think for myself, my superpower is transparency and vulnerability. And so my transparency is that I share a lot about myself because I believe that I don't have my story is not the only story. So the more I share about myself, other people say, hey, I have that same story, or I have that same story. And my vulnerability allows people to pour into me. So I connect with people because I admit I am human. I don't have all the answers to nothing, and I need help navigating this thing called life.
Love that.
And so that's my superpower. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you so much, you two, for letting me know what your superpowers are. Thank you.
Well, Natalie, the time has blown by, and we are glad that you are our first call-in guest. We've not had that before, so you had that distinction. And I'm going to turn it over to Tommie to close us out.
Indeed. Thank you again for joining us this morning, and for some this afternoon and this evening. We are absolutely global. Beautiful, wonderful guest, Natalie Dusey, the Global Chief of Staff for Meet the People. And beyond that, a wonderful, wonderful energy and spirit. For those of you who are new to the show, welcome. For others, we look forward to having you back next week on another installment of Diversity Conversations. See you then.
Take care now.